When Russia attacked Ukraine in 2022, Western media thought that the economic sanctions imposed on Russia would force it to kneel down very soon. CNN, BBC, and other news channels had headlines that Russia's economy would be destroyed in a few days and Putin would have no choice but to retreat. But today, after 3 years, Russia is not only strong in its place, but its economy is even stronger than before. In 2023, Russia's economic growth was 3.6%, and in 2024, this growth reached 4.1%. Unemployment has reached the lowest level in Russia's history, and despite so many sanctions, Russia has earned more than $220 billion by selling its oil and gas in 2024. The most surprising thing is that despite fighting alone against Ukraine and the entire West for 3 years, Russia did not care. In fact, it has also captured the eastern and southern side of Ukraine. The NATO leaders, who have made big claims, are sitting with their heads together today that despite their combined economic and military power, why they could not stop Russia, and how Russia has defeated the entire Western world alone. But how did all this happen? Despite so many sanctions, why did Russia's economy not care? In today's video, we are going to discuss Russia's strategies that have also made the most powerful countries in the world dizzy. And these same strategies are probably going to make Russia a world superpower again. Here, I would like to remind you once again to subscribe to the channel. This not only increases the reach of our videos, but also gives us the motivation to make more such videos. Today, to understand where Russia is standing, we have to go back in time. Sanctions on Russia are nothing new. Since 2014, when Russia occupied Crimea, Western countries have been imposing sanctions on Russia so that it can damage its economy and make it alone in the world. Initially, these sanctions also caused a little damage to the Russian economy, and the value of rubles also fell. But then in February 2022, a turning point came when Russia attacked Ukraine. In response to this attack, Western countries imposed mother of all sanctions on Russia. America, Europe, UK, Canada, and other Western countries blocked Russian banks. And the $300 billion reserves in Russia's Europe were also frozen. Then, one step ahead of this, the West imposed restrictions on Russia's energy sectors. America imposed a ban on Russian oil, gas, and coal imports. And seeing this, Europe also started reducing oil and gas imports from Russia. Now, the interesting thing is that Europe's 40% energy supply was coming from Russia. So initially, these sanctions had a good effect on Russia. The price of oil went above 130 per barrel. Russian ruble collapsed and panic spread all over Russia. All experts began to predict that Russia was about to collapse. The president of the European Commission also said that Russia would not be able to tolerate these sanctions. The entire Western media was also predicting that the Russian economy was going to collapse in just a few months. But after this, whatever happened, it surprised everyone. Russia began to adapt very quickly instead of being weak. Its economy started going up instead of going down. And here everyone started wondering that, how did Russia pick up its economy so quickly? What were the strategies that proved all the Western predictions wrong? So let's understand all these strategies one by one. The biggest factor in Russia's economic success was energy exports. Russia is the third largest oil-producing country in the world. When Europe and America banned Russian oil, Russia adopted a great strategy. It started supplying oil and gas to Asian markets, especially China and India. These countries were given huge discounts and deals. And as a result, China and Russia's trade reached $240 billion in 2024. India, which used to import very little oil from Russia, had now become one of the biggest buyers of Russian oil. In 2022, India's oil imports from Russia was zero, but in 2024, it had reached 1.8 million barrels per day. Meanwhile, Russia also used another great tactic, which was to make a shadow fleet. It was a secret naval fleet with more than 400 oil tankers, and they were out of the grasp of Western sanctions. Actually, a shadow fleet is a secret shipping network which has most of the oil tankers. These oil tankers are run by such anonymous or small companies instead of common shipping companies, on which Western laws or sanctions do not apply. These oil tankers are mostly registered in countries where laws are relaxed. And in this way, it is easy to hide the information of the real owner of the company. Now, because these oil tankers are working in the name of fake owners, it is very difficult to trace which country is behind these tankers. And on top of that, these tankers also turn off their GPS, which makes it very difficult to find out where they are coming from and where they are going. When these oil tankers leave the Russian ports, they change their route again and again so that no one can track them. Then they come to a fixed point and shift this oil to other tankers. And then those tankers take this oil to different parts of the world. And in this way, Western countries have no doubt that this oil is coming from Russia. Through these shadow fleets, Russia is sending its oil to China, India, Turkey, and other Western countries in a very large quantity. Because of this strategy, Western sanctions did not make much difference to Russia's energy sector. In fact, it also earned $220 billion from these energy exports in 2024. Similarly, in the Ukrainian war, Russia imposed its entire economy according to the war conditions. This concept is called the war economy. The war economy is formed when a country increases its military production and infrastructure projects very quickly during the war, so that the war needs can be fulfilled. After attacking Ukraine, Russia increased its defense budget a lot. From this budget, weapon-making factories, military vehicles, tanks, and explosives were prepared. By 2024, Russia's defense budget had reached $132 billion, which is 6% of Russia's GDP. Such a large defense budget became a kind of economic boost for Russia. Weapon-making factories began to be built. People started getting jobs. Steel, electronics, transport, and technology-related industries also started getting boosts. Because all these things are needed to make weapons, the biggest benefit of this was that the things that Russia used to import from abroad, it was now making its own factories. Because of the sanctions, it had to wash its hands of the weapons. It was now making its local factories. Its biggest impact was on unemployment. Because of the new factories, thousands of people got jobs. And in 2024, the unemployment rate had reached the record low level of Russia's history. Because of the war economy, hundreds of thousands of people got jobs in Russia. Factories, farms, and businesses started spreading throughout the country so that the increasing demand can be fulfilled. Meanwhile, the Russian government also started some big infrastructure projects, like new roads were built, new railway lines were laid, new airports and new military bases were also built. Because of these projects, the local industries got a lot of boost, and a lot of employment opportunities were also created there. But there was only one gray area here, which we will discuss further in the video. Like many economists say that if you rely too much on military budget and local production, then there can be a lot of problems. Like inflation will happen and innovation will stop. But till now, despite Western sanctions, Russia's strategy has been surprisingly successful. Similarly, when Western countries imposed financial sanctions on Russia in 2022, their biggest objective was to stop Russia from using American dollars. Now, because the most dollar is used in international trade, so this could have caused a lot of damage to Russia. But Russia responded to these sanctions with a very smart strategy, which is called de-dollarization. Instead of trading in dollars, Russia started using other currencies, such as Chinese yuan, Indian rupees, Turkish lira, and even precious metals such as gold. The The most important factor of the strategy to get rid of dollars was to trade with China in yuan. By 2024, about half of the trade between Russia and China was being done without American dollars. If we talk about numbers, this trade had crossed $240 billion by 2024. And now all this trade was happening in yuan and rubles. Similarly, by not using dollars, these two countries easily bypassed Western sanctions. Similarly, India has also become an important partner of Russia's de-dollarization strategy. Before 2022, there was no trade between India and Russia in Indian rupees. But in 2024, India was buying oil and gas worth billions of dollars from Russia in Indian rupees. Russia and India have set up a direct payment channel with each other, due to which they did not have to rely on Western banks and financial institutions at all. Similarly, Russia also started collecting gold to use as a safe alternate. And by the end of 2024, Russia had reserves of 2,400 tons of gold. In this way, Russia's de-dollarization strategy not only reduced the effects of Western sanctions, but also forced other countries to think about whether they should really rely so much on the dollar. And this is where BRICS comes in. When Russia started the de-dollarization campaign, BRICS countries fully supported Russia. BRICS includes countries like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. BRICS is actually a group of countries that are strongly against the Western dominance on the world's financial systems. This alliance was formed in 2009, but when Western sanctions were imposed on Russia in 2022, it practically showed how they can challenge the Western system. During the sanctions, all these countries supported Russia and traded a lot with it. Not only India and China, but other BRICS countries such as Brazil and South Africa also boosted their trade with Russia. In 2024, there was a trade of $300 billion between Russia and BRICS countries. This was such a big trade that it left behind all the trade that Russia used to do with Western markets before the sanctions. BRICS not only used local currencies, but also made its own banking systems and payment channels. One of these institutions of BRICS is New Development Bank, or NDB. From this bank, Russia took loans of billions of dollars and used them to improve its infrastructure and other industrial projects. Similarly, BRICS countries are now also considering introducing a common currency like the US dollar for mutual trade. Now, as the whole world trades in the US dollar, they will be able to trade with each other using this BRICS currency. If this plan succeeds, the world's financial system will change forever. And then there will be no value of Western sanctions. So where BRICS countries were supported a lot by oil exports to trade, and Asian countries, there was another very important thing happening in Russia. And that was high domestic spending and low national debt. Look, for any country's economy, it is very important that its people keep spending money so that shops keep running, factories keep running, and jobs keep being created for people. When people spend more money, the profits of businesses will increase, and they will give more taxes to the government, and then the government will spend those tax money on people's welfare. And in this way, the economic cycle will continue. When sanctions were imposed on Russia, many people thought that the common Russians would stop spending money out of fear. But the Russian government immediately started giving such packages and subsidies which made the common people feel that their government is very strong and their economy will not be affected by sanctions. As a result, people kept spending money like normal, despite the war and sanctions. And today, Russia's 70% GDP is dependent on domestic spending. This spending was also possible because the Russian government had kept the unemployment rate very low, which I have already told you how the war economy created millions of jobs. Similarly, another very important factor in Russia's economic success was low national debt. Now, where the national debt of countries like America is 100% of its GDP, Russia's national debt is only 17% of its GDP. Now, because Russia's debt is so low, it had the option of taking a loan in difficult times to support its economy, and it did the same. Another advantage of this low national debt was that investors were confident that the chances of the Russian government defaulting were very low. So, overall, the Russian economy has shown great resilience against all odds and predictions. But now let's talk about some things that can create problems for Russia in the future. First of all, this is a big loss of high domestic spending, which can cause Russia to struggle in the future, and that is inflation. Today, Russia's inflation rate has reached 9.2%. And if it continues to rise at this rate, there can be a lot of problems for Russia. Similarly, it can be dangerous to rely on the war economy for a long time. Although this war economy has created a lot of jobs, but in the long run, it can be a loss for other sectors. Because when the entire budget will be spent only on arms factories, other sectors such as banking, IT will lag far behind. Similarly, due to sanctions, Russia's access to Western technology is over. And historically, Russia was dependent on Western technology for many industries. Although Russian companies have made local alternatives, they are still not at the level of Western products. Similarly, another big risk is that Russia's current economic model is based on short-term adjustments. For example, selling oil and gas to Asia, using shadow fleets for oil exports, partnering with anti-Western countries, and staying in the war economy. But can this model last for a long time? This is a question that Putin may not have the answer to yet. So far, Russia has proven everyone's expectations and predictions wrong. But when will this happen? Only time will tell. Similarly, a big question for Western countries is that will these sanctions ever succeed against Russia? After putting sanctions against Russia for so many years, Western countries have not succeeded. And the way it has adapted, it is clear that the West needs to revise its strategy. These sanctions have not only made Russia self-sufficient, but also brought it closer to those countries that were against the West. One example of this is BRICS. So it looks like the West has put sanctions on Russia and has hit its own foot. If the West continues to retaliate against Russia without thinking, then Russia will soon form a strong bloc with the rest of the countries, which the West will not be able to break, whether you support Russia or not. But the way Russia is ahead of the most powerful countries in the world and has made its stance, it is clear that the balance of power of the world is shifting. The rule of the West is about to end, and now it's the turn of the East. Let's see how true our words are in the coming few years. If you liked the video, then share it with others. And if there are more such informative videos on our channel, then be sure to watch them. See you in another interesting video. Until then, take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz. Hafiz.